All right, let's go ahead and get started. This is the Cozy Getting Started workshop, which is a live demo of Cozy. So we talk about everything Cozy offers. I'll show you how to use it, and then we'll have a chance for questions throughout, as well as a good 10-15 minutes or so at the end for any of your questions. So I really hope this is a helpful session for you. I think that you'll find it valuable, and let's go ahead and get started with some introductions. My name is Maggie Cooper, and I'm a customer success manager at Cozy. So I work with our new customers to help them get started with the tool. I'm based here in Portland, Oregon, and that's where Cozy's headquartered. So somewhat rainy most of the time, Portland, Oregon, although the weather's getting a little bit nicer, so I'm happy about that. I also have 2 rental units with Cozy. So I actually learned about Cozy outside of working here. So I'm a big fan of Cozy, both personally as a customer and also as an employee. It's a great tool, and I'm excited to talk to you about it. Helping me out today is Jordan Bradley. Hey Jordan, thanks for joining us today.
Hey Maggie, thanks for having me. Hey everyone, I'm Jordan. I'm on the support team here at Cozy. I'm originally from LA, but moved to Portland a little over a year ago, and really happy to be here, especially now that the weather is getting a lot nicer. I'm very happy about it. Anyway, I'm really excited that everyone's joined, and being a lifelong renter myself, I really enjoy answering questions about Cozy. So any questions you have, feel free to ask them in the webinar, and I'm certainly happy to help out.
Awesome, thanks Jordan. So as Jordan mentioned, he'll be handling the question portion of the webinar today, and you can actually ask questions through GoToWebinar's control panel. So type your questions there. Jordan will see those and try to get to them as they come in. At the end, we'll actually do a more verbal Q&A. So you'll type your questions to Jordan, and he'll ask me live, and then we'll talk about them. So enough with introductions. Let's go ahead and talk about what we came here to learn. This is Cozy's property management tool. It is available online, so anywhere you have internet access, you have access to Cozy. So whether that be your laptop, your computer, your iPad, your smartphone, Cozy will work great on all of these devices. In fact, we see about 1/3 of our tenants using Cozy on their phone. So they can just pull up Cozy on their browser, send you a payment or set up payments to you, or even complete an application. Works great on all of these devices. We're also the folks behind the site Landlordology. Some of you, I think, signed up for the webinar through Landlordology, and welcome. We're really happy to have you here today. But if you aren't familiar with Landlordology, it's a great site that you should check out after we get done talking here, or even now if you want. It has tons of great articles, over 300 different articles on tricky situations that you might encounter in your property management life. We also have a start-to-finish guide, so if you're a new landlord getting into the industry, we'll break it down step by step for you. But today we're actually going to focus on the online management side of things. So we're not going to go into any landlording best practices because there's so much we could learn there. But instead, we're going to be talking about how you can use Cozy to bring your business online and really streamline and automate a lot of your daily activities. So Cozy focuses on these big 3 aspects of the rental management cycle. First, we help with marketing and listings. So you can create a website within Cozy that serves as your property's listing. You can also advertise when you create a listing in Cozy. You can send that out to our partner sites for advertising broadly. Our partner sites are realtor.com and doorsteps.com. So once you create a listing there, that link that you get from Cozy actually serves as an online application as well. So you can take that link we give you, just takes a couple minutes to set up, and you can send it to anyone you'd like to apply. And your renter can just grab that link, apply, and whenever they apply, you'll get an email from Cozy where you can log in and view that and just check to see if they meet your qualifications. You also have the option of having applicants send you screening reports when they apply. So if you want to have a screening report and application so you get that full picture of who's applying right away, you can have them do that. Or if you want, you can do it later. I know some people like to receive those applications first and then request screening reports from their top candidate. The screening reports are paid for directly by the applicant. They're $24.99 for one report, so that's a credit report or a background check, or $39.99 for both a credit report and background check. So those are the marketing and application side of things. Finally, when you have a tenant, or if you have a tenant today that you want to bring on and set up with online rent collection, you can use Cozy's online rent collection, which is so easy to set up. It just takes a few minutes on your end, a few minutes on your tenant's end, and then you don't really have to do anything after that. It just automatically deposits into your checking account. Our online rent collection is free for your tenant if they pay with their checking account. There is a 2.75% fee for your tenant if they choose to pay with a card, so a credit card or debit card. But either method they pay, it's 100% free for you. So you can use Cozy's online rent collection for free, and you can also use our marketing and applications for free. So we're going to start today talking about online rent collection first. I'll show you how to set that up in Cozy. Then we'll go into marketing your rentals, receiving those online rental applications, screening tenants, and then finally Q&A. So online rent collection, when my family switched over to online rent collection, this was such an improvement in our life. We only have 2 rental units, but for us, just that process of receiving the check, making sure we marked it as received, depositing it, making sure we were communicating with each other. We even would plan our vacation so we weren't gone the first week of the month. It was just a lot of mental energy for something that didn't really have to be. So when we switched over to Cozy, it took just a couple minutes to set up, and now each month our tenant sends an automatic payment to us and it automatically deposits into our checking account. Cozy works with any checking account that's in the United States. Tenants can pay automatically, so they can set up recurring payments to send each month, or if they don't like that, or if they want to use a combination of both, they can also do one-time payments. So they can just log into Cozy, send a payment at any time. Because it's so easy for your tenants, and tenants love it, we actually have had a decrease in late rent. So we hear a lot of reports of property managers and landlords saying that they don't get late rent payments anymore because it's so easy for their tenants to use. So let's go into Cozy. I want to show you what that looks like here. So I'm logging into an account here that is a real Cozy account. So this is what it looks like. We've anonymized the names and addresses of the Cozy account, so we're not sharing anything public. Let me zoom in here really quick. But this is a real Cozy account, and what you could expect if you're using Cozy to manage your properties. This is the dashboard that you'll see when you first log in. You'll have a card for each one of your rentals where you can see a quick status of what's going on with them. So right now these all 4 rentals are collecting rent, so these are all buildings. This one actually is a duplex, so it has 2 units in there. So you can get a good overview of what you have in Cozy. Towards the left, we have a nice navigation tab, so you can switch to any of your different activities in Cozy. So if you want to look at just your payments and who's leased out your property, you could go here. Just your listings, you go to listings, and so on. So the first step in Cozy to pretty much do anything is to create a property. And Cozy supports both single-family homes, so if you've got that nice single-family home you're renting out, or if you have a multifamily home, like a duplex or triplex or big apartment building, you could select multifamily home. Either one, the first step is to add just the address of that building. And then for the multifamily home, you'd add the unit name. And the unit name can be flexible, so whatever you call it, suite number, unit number. Even we've seen people who rent by the room have their tenant's name here. So it's however you want to set it up. So I'm going to say Unit A. And then if you have multiple units you want to set up, you can add all of those here by just clicking this Add Another Unit. Unit B and Unit C. And then you can upload a cover image. I really like cover images because they help me stay organized, so I can quickly just get a snapshot of which property is what in Cozy. So I've added my photo. I'm going to click Create Property here, and then I'll get a Modo window which will prompt me to do 2 things in Cozy. I can either create a listing and start finding tenants, or I can set up rent collection by setting up a lease. So we're going to set up a lease here. Now a lease in Cozy, this is just our rent collection feature. We don't offer rent or legal leases or rental agreements, so this is just the representation of your lease. that this is a leased unit and these are the terms of the lease, and where you'd go to manage any of the rent collection aspect. So first step, and I'm going to set it up, it will take, with me talking, about 2 minutes, and you could probably even go faster if it's me not talking. So you'll choose the address and then tell Cozy about the lease dates. So when is the tenant living there? And this is nice because if your tenant moved in several years ago, you can set it in the past and have that be a reminder of when they moved in. And then in the next step, you'll be asked when you want to collect your first payment in Cozy. So a lot of flexibility in how you set this up. You can also start it in the future. So if your tenant is moving in a month and you want to get them set up now, that works too. So I'm going to say my tenant is moving in May 1st, and then you have the option of having it month to month. So if you want Cozy just to automatically collect rent until you tell it to stop, that's what you'd choose. Or if you want Cozy to stop collecting payments after a certain date, you would choose fixed term lease and then choose the end date. So for this example, I'm going to say it's May 1st. The next step is where you'll add your tenant's name and email address. And I'm just going to add myself here. And that's all the information that you need from your tenants, just their name and email address. So if you're getting started with tenants who you've been collecting checks from, the first place you'd want to start out is just announcing Cozy, getting their name and email address. Well, of course you have their name, and then going in here and sending out the invitation. You can add multiple tenants if they're both people or multiple people are going to be paying for one unit, but for today I'm going to add just myself. The next step is where you'll add the recurring rent amount. So what's the rent? I'm going to say it's $1,000, and you can have any due date you like. Most common is the 1st. And this is the step I mentioned earlier. When do you want to collect your first month's rent? So if you already collected the check in person when they sign the lease, you can actually have it start later. So if you want to set it to start June 1st, that's their first rent payment in Cozy. You can set that up. I'm just going to say it starts on May 1st. The next step is to add a security deposit if you like. Cozy is great if you want to collect a security deposit through us because you have the option of automatically sending that money to a different checking account from rent. It's best practice to have separate accounts for rent and that security deposit money. In fact, some states require this, depending on your state. So Cozy is really easy to set up. I'm going to say I do want to collect a security deposit and enter the amount. When it's due, I'm going to say it's due on April 15th because I want that money before they actually move in. And if there's other moving costs like a pet deposit or a non-refundable fee or anything you want to add here that is just a one-time fee that your tenant will be paying when they first move in, you can add that. All right, this is the next step, actually the last step, is to tell Cozy where you want to send the payments. You can add any checking account to Cozy. And if you've used Cozy before, any account that you've added for rent collection will be here, and it will have your nicknames that you've added. So these nicknames are kind of random because it's anonymized, but you could have it be whatever you've set it. So easy to go back there. You can also uncheck or check this box for the security deposit and choose a different account. So if you've used Cozy before for rent collection, this is the page you'll see with the drop-down. But if you're new to Cozy, or if it's the first time setting up Cozy, or if you want to add a new account, this is the page you'll see here. You can add an account a couple different ways. So you can connect your checking account to Cozy via a debit card or a checking account. So if it's a debit card, you just add those details here, similar to buying something online, which I'm known to do a little bit too much. Or if it's a checking account, choose that option. You can search for your bank, and it will pull up here. So if you don't see your bank, if you have a small bank, a local bank, a credit union that's not coming up on the list, not a problem at all. You'll just choose this add account manually. But before I show you what that looks like, I'm going to show you what it looks like if you have one of these major banks. So you'll click the icon here for whatever your bank is. And then this is an integration that we actually have with your bank. So it's through a tool that we use that integrates to your bank's online site. So you would just add your username and password, and once you log in, it will show you all the different checking accounts that you have available to connect. So you can choose which account you want it to go to, and that gives Cozy the information we need. It's all encrypted, very secure, using bank-level technology. Essentially just lets us know where we should send the money. So that's what it's like if you have one of these major banks here. But if you don't have one of these major banks, the checking account option to enter it manually will come up, and you'll add the routing number and account number, add account, and then that tells us where the money needs to go. So that's how you add a checking account to Cozy. For today, I'm just going to add one of my existing accounts, and I'm going to choose a different account for my security deposit. And I'm going to continue on to the last step, which is where I just confirm that everything looks good. And one thing to keep in mind too is none of this is set in stone. If you need to edit anything, if you make a mistake, not a problem at all. It's super easy to edit this, and I'll show you where you go to edit this in just a couple minutes here. So you can change the lease dates, extend the lease, add new tenants, increase the rent amount, or change your receiving accounts at any time. So when I click this confirm and invite button, what's going to happen here is my tenant is going to be sent an email prompting them to set up payments through Cozy. And I'm not going to go over what it's like for a tenant to set up today, but instead I want to point you to one of our videos that shows it that you could watch later if you're curious exactly what they'll see. It's in our Help Center. It's the video for renters, and it shows you all the different steps that it takes to set it up for a tenant. So you would see the email that they get, what it's like when they first log in, the different options for their payment, so they can pay with that debit card or credit card for a small fee, or with their checking account for free. We'll also show how they would connect their accounts to Cozy. So all of that's there in our Help Center. And if you have any other questions, or your tenant has questions about setting up, we're also here to help them get started. So another thing that is good before you invite your tenant to Cozy, if you like to announce it first, we have another resource that may help. It's our tenant one-page guide, and I actually included it in the GoToWebinar handout section. If you want to take a look at that, it's essentially a nice guide that we put together for you to print out or attach to an email, and it has a basic overview of Cozy from the tenant's point of view, so it helps you explain how Cozy works and what you want to do to help them get started. If you want to find it later, or you miss it today, it's also in our Help Center under our Guide to Rent Collection. All right, moving on. I'm going to show you now how to tell if your tenant has paid you. So right now, we're going into the lease we just created. This is a lease ledger, and it keeps track of all of the bills you've sent your tenant and all of the payments you've received. So at the top, you'll see the current balance due, which is what's been paid versus what's owed on the due date. You'll also underneath have different statuses for the different charges and payments. So under upcoming, we see that the rent collection request that we just set up, May 1st is when rent is due, and then April 15th is when that security deposit's due. So I know that I've billed my tenant for this amount, my tenants received that request, and now what they'll be doing is setting up payments for that. Now, they haven't set up payments yet, and the reason for this is I can't see a payment line. When your tenant sets up a payment, that will show up as a payment line, and I'll show you what that looks like here. So I'm going to go to one of our leases that has some payments on it. So this leases page I'm on right now, this has an overview of all of your payments through Cozy. So great way to just do a quick snapshot of who's paid up to date and who still owes you money. So anything in orange means your tenant owes you money. So let's look at, I don't know how to pronounce that, our ferry. So I'm going into this lease, and this is a real life Cozy lease that's collecting payments, and I see that the next month's rent, May 1st, is due on May 1st, and that my tenant has a payment scheduled to send on April 22nd for the full amount. So you'll want to look for these scheduled or payment green lines. That means your tenant has scheduled a payment. And you can click on these and load more details, like the type of payment the tenant has set up, recurring versus one-time payment. You'll also see the send date and the method of payment they're using. So are they using a checking account, or are they using a credit or debit card? So in addition to sharing upcoming payments that are scheduled, We also keep track of all your completed payments and charges. So we see April 1st just happened. We see our tenant on March 27th sent us a payment. That was sent on the 27th, deposited to my account on the 29th. We'll have the transaction ID for you if you want to check your bank statement, and also where we sent the money, so you can keep track there. So average payment time for if you're using Cozy's free version is 5 business days from when your tenant sends a payment to when it's deposited to your bank account. We also have, if you need it faster than that 5 business days processing timeline, we have an option called Express Payouts, which you can turn on from your lease ledger here or from the Paid Services menu here. And that essentially sends that payment in 3 business days. So as soon as your tenant begins sending a payment, Cozy will advance that money so you get it a little bit faster. So you can add that here. It's $2.99 per unit per month. So in addition to collecting rent through Cozy, which we've just talked about, you can also add a couple other things. You can add one-time charges. So if you have a utility bill that fluctuates and you charge every month, you would go to this lease ledger here, add a charge, and this would allow you to add the memo, the amount, and when it's due, and then your tenant would be sent an email prompting them to set up payments for that. In addition to one-time charges, you can also record payments received outside of Cozy. So if your tenant pays with a check or cash or however that's not in Cozy, you would go in here, record that, the amount, and when it's due, and that way it would update the ledger so both you and your tenant would know where you stand. In addition to those offline payments, you can also credit your tenant in Cozy. So credits don't send money back to your tenant, but instead give them something that they can apply towards their next rent payment. So if your tenant paid for something out of pocket, maybe a standard maintenance thing that they helped you with and you want to reimburse them for, you could add it here, the amount, and when it would apply. And that would send your tenant an email and also with instructions on how they can apply their payment to their next month's rent. So those are the other things that you can add in Cozy. You can also check to see the different terms that you have in Cozy. So if you need to make any edits, extend the lease, add a new tenant, change the rent amount or the depositing account, you would go to this Lease Details tab here. The Lease Details tab is also where you'd go if you want to stop receiving payments in Cozy. So if you ever are in an unfortunate situation like eviction and you just want to not receive payment, go to Lease Details, end this lease. That will stop your tenant from paying you through Cozy. So that's the Lease Details tab. Another tab that I think is helpful, especially during onboarding for your tenants, is the Tenants tab. So this is where we'll show you your tenant status. Are they ready to pay and are payments scheduled? Or if they're brand new, if they haven't responded to your email, if you're not sure where they are, go to the Tenants tab, and if they're not ready to pay, it will just be displayed as not ready to pay, and we'll also have an re-invite tenant link that you can click, and it will generate an email reminder that you can send. But if your tenant's not getting the email through Cozy, not a problem at all. Just have them go to Cozy and sign up using the same email that you've invited them with, and we'll have your request for rent there waiting for them. You're not reliant on getting that email. I know sometimes things go to spam, so if that happens, you've got options there. All right, so that is kind of the thorough overview of payments in Cozy. The one thing that we didn't talk about that I want to touch on quickly before we move on to the rest of Cozy is our export payment data feature. So this allows you to get a spreadsheet of all the payments you've received through Cozy. This is especially popular during tax season, first part of the year. So you can choose which properties you want to export or all of them, choose a calendar year or a date range, and the file size or file type that you want. And that will generate a report for you that has all of the details about their payments, which property it was for, which unit, the tenant's name. So if you're someone who likes to work from spreadsheets, Cozy has an option for you there. All right, so that is it for payments. We're now going to move on to the rest of Cozy for the last 15 minutes of the presentation. So Cozy Listings, I mentioned earlier, this is a website for your rental. Really easy to set up, and then it looks really nice. So you can either use it as your property's own website or share it with anyone, and you can feel proud about how you're representing your rental. You can also choose to advertise for free through our partners realtor.com, doorsteps.com, and then when you have that listing link, that serves as your application. So it really saves you a lot of time there. Online applications, we found, minimize the barriers for people to apply. So people are more likely to apply because it's just so easy. All they need is just to get that link from you. You can text it to them, email to them, or even write it down for them. They'll be able to apply anywhere from their smartphone, their laptop, their iPad, and then as soon as they apply, you'll get an email. Because everything's online, you don't have to worry about maintaining all those office equipment, faxers, scanners, printers. I know that I don't like having to bother with that. In addition to just having a standard application through Cozy, you can also have applicants share a screening report. So if you want a credit report, background check, you can request that anyone who applies pay for those and send those to you. Our screening reports, we partner with Experian for our credit reports, which is one of the 3 main credit bureaus here in the United States, and we partner with Checker for our background checks. Experian uses what's called a soft inquiry. So this means your tenant's credit is not harmed in the process. If you use the traditional credit report method, that actually hurts your tenant's credit. It shows up that someone was checking their credit. Typically means that they're going to be making a large purchase. But with Cozy's option, because the tenant is buying it themselves and sharing it with you, it's recorded as a soft inquiry, so it does not damage their credit. Really easily, seamless process. You can have it as part of the application or separately from the application, and I'll show you both methods. And the applicants pay for the reports, and then once you get those reports, everything's stored online. So they'll get a copy, you'll get a copy, and you don't have to worry about storing that under lock and key in your office. Moving on, back into Cozy. So I'm back into Cozy, and I'm going to show you how to set up a listing. So I'm actually going to go to one of my existing listings and show you what you're asked to input there. So when you set up a listing, you'll be asked some basic information. So what's the property type, bedroom number, bathroom number, square footage, and then you'll be asked to add a description of up to 1,000 characters. So this is the page that it looks like here. So you can choose the unit type. This is a townhome, but we also have apartment, condo, duplex, loft, single family home, or other. And then you have the description here and then the listing headline. The next step is the details section. So this is where you'll share what your pet policy is and what the features and amenities are. We have a great list of all these different features and amenities, but if you don't see yours on the list, or if you have something that's extra special and great you want to highlight, add that here and that will be displayed on your listing. All right, the next section is where you explain the rent amount and the security deposit information. You can also share what the duration of the lease is or not and when it's available. And before I move on to the next step, I just wanted to quickly talk about our new feature that we offer, rent estimates. This is a report that we help you with and generates and does all of this market research for you. For $19.99, it gives you an estimated rent amount and also compares all of the rental prices that are on file in your neighborhood. So I think it's dependent on the density of your neighborhood, but I think average is around a 2-mile radius, but if it's a large city, it's probably even tighter than that. But we'll give you all of the comparable rental properties in your area and what the rent is for. That's pulled from actual rent data as well as listing data, so you get a combination, a lot of different data sources there. So if you haven't put your property on the market for a while, or if you think you're not charging enough or the right amount, it's a cool report to help. Again, totally optional. So that is under rent estimates when you're setting up a listing, or if you go to this page services tab here, you can buy one. So back to our listings, we're going to finish that up. The next step of setting up a listing is to add photos. We support up to 6 megabytes per image. You can add descriptions, reorder the photos by clicking these arrows here. And then if you have a YouTube video, scrolling way down to the bottom here, you can add a YouTube video of a walkthrough if you want to add that additional field here. All right, saving, and this is the screening step. So if you want your applicant to send you credit report and background check when they apply, leave these boxes checked. But if you don't want them, just uncheck those boxes, and then your applicant will see those are optional and they can just skip over that. So I'll talk a little bit more about credit reports and background checks and show you what those look like here in a little bit. But let's get to our last step, which is the review step. So anytime you want to activate your listing, you create the listing, go to this page, and click on. And that will generate a link for you to your rental. It will also syndicate your listing to realtor.com and doorsteps.com. And if you don't want to syndicate that listing, right after you activate it, just uncheck that box and it won't be sent there. Syndication takes about 6 to 24 hours to post to our partner sites. So if you're one who just wants to collect the application, just create your listing, uncheck that box, and it won't be shared widely. So anytime you want to have someone apply to your rental, you would just take this link and share it with them. So I'm going to show you what our listing looks like here. All right. So we've got our cover image, which is not showing up for whatever reason. I think I might have deleted it. But typically there would be a cover image here, this large gray box, and then you'd have your subphotos. You'd also have the rent amount. All right, there's my cover image. Thank you. And then you'd have all of the details about your property. And then anytime someone wants to apply, they'd get this link and they'd be asked to create a Cozy Renter profile to apply. And what your applicants will see when they apply, they will be asked, it's very standard, like a standard paper application. We'll ask if they're applying with co-applicants. We'll be asked about their basic renter profile information, so what their name is, birthday, about themselves, their emergency contact information, employment and income, very standard stuff, and then the rental history. So where they lived, what was the landlord or property manager's name, what their contact information is. We'll also let them share any references, so if you require references in addition to their employer and property manager, that's an option too. We'll ask those basic screening questions if they've ever been bankrupt, evicted, refused payments, convicted, done drugs, or smoke. And then if you've required those reports, they'll see that those are required and be brought into a page where they can enter their credit card information to pay for those reports, and then just be asked another question to verify their identity, and that would run the reports. Finally, the last step in an application is they would just check this box here to certify everything looks correct, send you the application, and then you'll get an email instantly letting you know their basic information, and then you can click into that and review the application. So those are listings and applications in Cozy. Now I want to talk for the last 5 minutes or so about Cozy's screening reports. So if you take a look at the GoToWebinar handouts, I've actually added a sample credit report and sample background check for you to review. So if you want to look at in a little more details than you can see on my screen, go take a look at those. You can download those as a PDF, or I think they might be an image file. But anyways, you can take a look at those in more detail. So we partner with Experian for those credit reports, Checker for those background checks. And if you wanted to request reports separately from an application, you would go to the screening tab here. Screening reports are available for 30 days after purchase. So you'll have 30 days to download and save those reports if you want. After that, they do expire. Your tenant also gets a copy as well. So they'll be able to see their screening reports from their account. So if you ever have denied a tenant based on what a result that came on their credit report or background check, it makes it really easy for you. You don't have to worry about sending them a copy. You can just point them to Cozy and say, you were denied because you did not meet our credit score requirements. You can see that information on your credit report, or however you want to do it. So if you're requesting reports separately from your application, go to screening and click Request Reports. You'll be asked what kind of screening you want, so either a full report or just a credit report or a background check. And then all you need to enter about your tenant is their name and email address. They'll get the request and be prompted to set everything up. So it really removes you as the person doing all the work. You don't have to worry about the administration data entry and making sure that you've got their name right and all that information. All of it's entered by them. It takes just them a couple minutes, and then you get a copy. So our credit report, we take credit report data and turn it into a report that is actually useful. I've seen a lot of credit reports that are 5-6 pages long. It looks like something a fax machine spit out. They're just not helpful. I don't have a finance background, so I don't know what I'm looking for. I need a report that breaks down what's important in a way that I can really understand what it means. So Cozy does a really nice job of that. I get an overview of their credit score and how they compare to other consumers. I also think this total monthly payment breakdown and total debt is some of the most helpful information on the report, because I can see what their monthly commitments are, so if they can really afford my rent based on what their income is, and I can also see a breakdown of their types of debt. So is it all credit card debt? Is it all mortgage? You know, if they have $100,000 of credit card debt, that's a lot worse than having $100,000 of a real estate loan. You know, so you can make that determination pretty quickly on how financially responsible they are. We'll also show you if they've ever been late, time since late, if they've ever been to court due to debt matters, so collections, etc. We'll show you breakdowns of their different loans, which kind of get very specific. And we'll also show you who's checked their credit rate recently. So these are those hard inquiries I mentioned earlier that actually hurt their credit. We'll also display their addresses and employment information that's on file. And we'll also give a breakdown of what deducted their score. So those are our credit reports. Our background checks, we partner with Checker to run searches on national databases and also county level databases. So right now we're looking at 2 separate reports. The one on the left is all clear, no results came up, and that's great. The one on the right means results came up. We see this in red, that national or county criminal search had a result for arson. So Cozy will verify their social security, so we make sure that they are who they say they are and not someone just entering their friend's information because they know they have a clean record. We'll also search for evictions, sex offenders, search terrorist watch list search, national and county records. So a nice complete picture there. So those are our background checks. And with that, that concludes the presentation portion of today's demo. I hope you found it helpful. We're going to now open it up to questions. So if you have questions that we haven't got to yet or things that you've thought up as we've gone along, go ahead and type those in now. If you need to head on and get on with your day, I know this has been a long session, so thank you so much for joining. I hope you found it helpful. But with that, we're going to be going into some questions. So Jordan, how's it going over there? What questions do you have for me?
Going really good, Maggie. I have a few here, a lot of really good ones. The first one is about a landlord wanted to know if they would be notified about a payment from their tenant.
Yeah, that's a good question. So yes, you will be notified when your tenant pays you by email. We send 2 emails to you during a rent collection process. The first is when your tenant sends a payment. We'll send you an email with their amount, their name, where they live. And then once their payment is depositing, we'll send you a second email just so you know that you can look, that's depositing into your account. You should go look in your account if you want to just verify that. It always is in there, but if you're one who likes to, you know, dot the I's, cross the T's like I am, I always want to just see it and make sure everything's running smoothly. So we send those 2 emails. If you have multiple rentals, those will be in the form of a digest email. So we are not going to send you 50 different emails when all your tenants' payments are sending. We will send you 1 email. It will come in the afternoon, and it will have all of their information that's consolidated. We don't want to spam you ever, so that will be in 1 email for any of those statuses. All right, so I hope that helps. Let me know if you have any other questions there. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Another great one here. I know sometimes tenants like to set up or they pay rent at different intervals. This landlord wanted to know if there was a way, if tenants pay bi-weekly or maybe they pay weekly, if there was a way to set that up.
Yeah, great question. So yes, your tenants can pay biweekly or non-monthly intervals. They would use our one-time payment feature for this. So cozy recurring payments for your tenants, if they want to set up, what's called auto pay or something like that, that would be a monthly interval. We don't have a way to send like biweekly recurring payments, so you can only have it be monthly. But if they want to have it sent on a quarterly basis or a biweekly basis, they would also schedule one-time payments. So they would go in, they can not use our recurring payments feature and then just create one-time payments for that. So we see a lot of people who pay biweekly. They'll just go into Cozy, schedule those one-time payments, and then each month they can set them up in advance. So if they want to just do it all at the beginning of the year to send every 2 weeks, it would just take them a couple minutes to set up. So short answer is yes, your tenant can pay biweekly or on any other increment that they like other than monthly. Great question. I hope that information helps.
Excellent. And another one here. So this one's about applications. And this landlord wanted to know if they had permission to verify the information that a tenant lists on their application.
Yeah, great question. So yes, you do have permission. When your tenant submits that application, they'll check that box that they agree to check references. We'll also have that agreement statement on your application itself. So if you wanted to print out a copy of that, if you're talking with an employer and they ask for proof, you can go ahead and either screenshot that authorization that they sent to you, or you can just print the application itself. That's what I usually do, just because it is so thorough and it really proves that they've applied to my rental, and it also has their authorization. But good question. All right. Any other questions for me, Jordan?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. So kind of in line with the other question about what emails landlords receive when a tenant submits their payment, this landlord wanted to know if tenants get any type of reminder when their rent is coming up, when their due date is coming up.
Yes, excellent question. Sorry I didn't go over that in the main presentation. Yes, your tenant will get a reminder 5 days before their rent is due. The email varies based on if they've scheduled a payment or not, or if they haven't. If they have scheduled a payment and they're all set, it's just a friendly reminder email, hey, your payment's about to send. If you need to make any changes, do so now. Here's where to do it. If they have not scheduled a payment, so they need to take action or rent will be due, it's a little bit more of a call to action. Your rent is due soon, so you schedule payments now. So they can be brought directly into Cozy based on that reminder email to schedule their payments. So those are 5 days before rent is due. We also will send them an email whenever a payment is sending. So they'll get a confirmation, kind of like a receipt, that their payment has sent. It was on this day. It's going to deposit into their landlord's account on this day. So it's a good communication tool. But that's a great question. And your tenant can also always look in Cozy to see the status of their payment. So they'll have a very similar layout to you on the ledger of their payments that they've sent and charges that are due. So both of you can stay informed, and it's a really transparent interaction. But good question. I hope that information helps.
Great. And so many great questions here. Another one was about what was the difference between adding a checking account for rent deposits and using a debit card?
Yeah. So they both go to the same place, which is your checking account. There are a couple differences, though. The first is your debit card does have, if you're collecting rent with a debit card, there is a $3,000 limit for the deposit, single deposit limit. So if your rent is more than $3,000, most rentals aren't, but if you live in a big city or you have a huge 8-bedroom home and it's over that, you won't be able to deposit via debit card. We'll send you a warning, And then if we try to send it and it doesn't go through, we'll also be in touch immediately. But we'll let you know as you're trying to send it up. If the rent amount's too high, we'll prompt you to set up with a checking account. So that is the one preventative for using a debit card. Another kind of anecdotal thing that I've noticed with debit cards is it tends to send more information about the transaction onto your bank statement. Cozy will send all of the information we have to your bank to display on that transaction, but for whatever reason, debit cards display slightly more information about the just deposit. That might include like a full name, versus a checking account might have just the transaction ID and the first part of the last name. So I like to use debit cards just because it's easy. That's the pro of a debit card, but a con of the debit card is they expire. So if you just want to not have to deal with it, you can just set up a checking account. So those are the differences there. Good question.
All right, and the last question here was, we use the term lease to kind of refer to setting up or adding your lease details to Cozy. But if we have any plans to offer a legal lease in the future.
Yeah, we do hope to offer a lease signing tool where you could add your legal lease and have that stored in Cozy where you can communicate with your tenant through it. We don't know exactly what that will look like and when it will be just yet. We do hope to offer it though, because we want to be a complete platform. We want everything to be integrated and seamless for you and have it be, a huge time saver for you. So we do know right now most people are either doing paper leases or signing using an online signature tool. So we do plan to do that probably over the next 6 months to a year.
Great, and I think that's all the questions we have so far.
Awesome. I just wanted to thank you all for joining. This has been such a great session. Your questions were great. I hope you found it helpful, and thanks for learning about Cozy in your afternoon. And if you have any other questions, we're always here to help. Support@cozy.co. Or through a help center. So thank you everyone who's joined today, and enjoy the rest of your day.